You're right on time for Hope TV Newswatch on this 10th day of June 2024. A very good evening to you and welcome to the broadcast. My name is Kimani and signing for us tonight is Boniface Moridi. Former President Uhuru Kenyatta has lamented over the retirement packages that he alleges have never been availed to his office. Addressing the press, the spokesperson of the office of the fourth president, Kanze Dena, intimated that the former president has never received the full budget allocation as required by law, forcing him to finance essentials like office space, among others. Despite an allocation of 655 million shillings, Kenyatta's office alleges that only 28 million shillings was released this fiscal year, raising concerns about budget disbursement to the former president.
That the office seeks to have addressed budget allocation. In the year 2022-2023, financial year 2022-2023, Parliament allocated this office 655 million shillings. To date, the office can only confirm absorption of roughly 28 million shillings, spread across payment of allowances for domestic travel, as well as facilitation of the 2 trips that I mentioned earlier that were honored. That is approximately 4.4% of the total budget for that particular year. And this does not include the payment of salaries and medical insurance. The financial year 2023-2024 that ends in a few weeks, the budget allocation for this office was 503 million shillings. The year is ending without the office having any access to this allocation. The total amount for the 2 years that we have not had access to this approximately 1 billion Kenya shillings.
Away from that, and Kenyans have given President William Ruto and his deputy Rigathi Gachagua a performance rating of grade D, while applauding Interior Cabinet Secretary Kithure Kindiki, giving him a B grade. However, poor ratings continue to extend to the office of the opposition and the judiciary, with both scoring a D. This is according to a report released by Infotrack that provided valuable insights into the performance of key Kenyan institutions, highlighting areas of strength and areas in need of improvement. This story was produced by Ian Edward and voiced by Mombi Wawero.
Senior Field Operations Manager of Infotrack, Jovin Wanyigo, has provided a detailed analysis of performance ratings of key institutions in Kenya, shedding light on the state of governance in the country. In his report, Wanyigo echoed Kenya's dissatisfaction in the presidency's performance that gave him a D+ rating. Ruto received a main rating of 46%, a slight drop from the previous survey. His performance was evaluated based on his communication with the public, task delivery, addressing national issues, and improving office functionality. His deputy Gachagua also received a D rating, scoring an average of 42% across evaluated aspects.
The president has a score of a D. And if you check through the various, this D has been brought together by different aspects that we ask Kenyans to rate the president on. And the first thing is on the aspect of communicating communicating to Kenyans what he's doing as the president, and there he gets a mean score of 48%. When it comes to the ability or the competence or ability to deliver on the assigned tasks to him as our head of state, he has a 47%.
The analysis extended to cabinet secretaries, revealing an average performance rating of 44% across all the 23 CSs. Notably, 3 CSs stood out with relatively higher ratings. Professor Kithure Kindiki of Interior led with a mean score of B, 60%, followed by Ababu Namwamba at 51%, and a tie between Eliud Owalo and Soipantonya at 50%. Conversely, the lowest performance with scores below average included Mithuka Linturi of Agriculture, David Chirchir of Energy, and Alice Wahome of Land Settlement and Housing, all receiving an E grade.
We can report that in terms of the overall performance of the CSS, they still have that uniform number of D as their principals, because they have an average of 44%, the 23 of them. But suffice to say, we can mention that the top 3 cabinet secretaries that scores a bit high, there's only one with a B, score of B, of 60%, that is Professor Kindiki of Interior. Then, of course, followed by the Cabinet Secretary, Honorable Babu Namwamba, who has a 51%, scoring C. Then the rest, of course, if we look at the top 3 tier, we have Honorable Eliud Owalo, a tie with the Honorable Soipan Tuya and Honorable Aden Duale.
The InfoTrack poll also revealed an overview of other key institution performances, such as the opposition and the judiciary. The opposition received an overall performance rating of 47%, falling below average. The judiciary followed closely with a 46% rating, combining both the Senate and the National Assembly. The performance rating stood at 42%. An average of these institutions yielded a score of 45%, equivalent to a mean grade of D+.
Now, Kenya has called for a united voice in propagating for Africa's common position on the reforms of the United Nations Security Council. Speaking in Algeria during the 11th ministerial meeting of the Committee of 10, Prime Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi said Africa must seize the current opportunity to galvanize political support for an expeditious Security Council reform that prioritizes the continent's representation in the Council.
Africa's non-representation in the permanent category and the representation in the non-permanent category in the organ of the United Nations that is entrusted with the primary responsibility of maintaining international peace and security is a historical injustice that needs urgent redress. This is especially in view of the rapidly evolving international security realities and the multiple failures of the Security Council to take action, where decisive action has been urgently required. My delegation notes the modest progress in the IGN during the 78th session of the UN General Assembly, including the discussion models presented by different interest groups and countries. As a continent and the only region with a united position, it is imperative that we progress the IGN process in a way that solidifies the common African position and support from other member states. As we intensify our engagement with other member states, interested groups, and regional groups, we must ensure that the presentation of the common African position reform model is underpinned by an in-depth appreciation of the historical and political context then and now.
Now, the government has launched the 4th and final segment of the Kenya Vision 2030 plan. Speaking in Marsabit town, while presiding over the launch of the 4th medium-term plan, stakeholder engagement, and the breakdown of plant development programs and projects for Marsabit County between now and the year 2027, Interior Cabinet Secretary Kithure Kindiki said the bottom-up economic transformation agenda envisages investments in agriculture, health, housing, business, and the digital and creative economies to power the economic, political, and social pillars of Kenya Vision 2030.
This vision is grounded on economic, social, and political pillars, fortified by key enablers identified to propel us towards our collective aspirations. Since its inception, significant progress has been achieved in realizing the goals set forth in the Kenya Vision 2030 through the implementation of preceding medium-term plans. Yet, our economy continues to grapple with fundamental challenges, including widening inequality, low productivity, and sustainability to economic shocks. These challenges demand urgent and resolute interventions to regain lost ground and align ourselves with our aspirations. This is why, upon assuming office, our administration pledged to spearhead a radical economic turnaround fostering inclusive growth, and enhancing the livelihoods and welfare of all citizens, particularly those at the bottom of the pyramid. These commitments are intricately detailed within the bottom-up economic transformation agenda, BETTER. Consequently, it became imperative to ensure that the medium-term Plan 4, together with the county integrated development plans, are aligned with the bottom-up economic transformation agenda, objectives, and key priorities.
Now, a section of residents in Embu County have expressed varied opinions concerning Azimio leader Raila Odinga's candidacy for the African Union Commission chairmanship. Some residents have backed the move, saying it will bring Kenya a good reputation, while others want Raila Odinga to continue with local politics so that he can vie for presidency in the 2027 elections. Last week, Raila Odinga said he believed he had what it takes to lead the AU Commission.
Raila asiende kukuwa chairman wa USC juu sasa 2027 Raila ndiye tunaangalia juu. Kwanza wakati wa Azimio Raila tulikuwa tumemfanyia kampeni mzuri, na tena Raila tunaona ni yana atatusaidia sasa. Juu kama wenye tulikuwa tumepea roho zetu watusaidia ni kama wameenda wametugeuka tena. Yeah, so mimi namuomba tu asiende, aendelee kushikilia mwananchi wa chini na maneno itakuwa sawa.
Mrengo wa Raila kuwania EU is a good for him because inaleta impact nyingine kwa Kenya, na at least ataleta ushirikiano kuonyesha penye tuko kasa hii. Na ile kitu ya mwisho mimi ningetaka bado seti maandamano bado tunafaa turudi na tuchangie, tupambanie taifa letu. Ya asante.
Kugombea kiti cha AU, naona hiyo kiti si mzuri kwake. Wacha akuje siasa za Kenya, tumchague 2027 awe rais na awe anasaidia pande ya opposition, kwa sababu kama sasa angekuwa anaongea angetusaidia sana watu wa Kenya tusikandamishwe na hii bill.
Mzuri aende AU, awe mkubwa huko, hata atatupatia sifa katika Afrika na Kenya. Then ile president alisema iko share tutaongezea katika African Bank. Hiyo ni ya kuboost Kenya sana, because kama ni mwisho wa mwaka tukigawa dividend, Kenya itakuwa inagawiwa pesa nyingi kuliko mataifa ingine. Kwa hivyo hata hiyo na support hiyo ya kuongezea share katika African Bank.
Well, it is 25 minutes past the top of the hour. Time now for a quick breather, but immediately after the break, I'll be back with the business and sports news. Stick around.
The East Africa Women of Excellence Awards Gala Dinner is here. This award celebrates the brilliance, resilience, and outstanding achievements of remarkable trailblazing women who have shattered glass ceilings in their various spheres of influence and fields. Join us for the awards ceremony happening on Friday, the 14th of June 2024 from 6 p.m. at Safari Park Hotel, Nairobi. Our chief guest is Honorable Aisha Jumwa, Cabinet Secretary at the Ministry of Gender, Culture, the Arts and Heritage. To attend, get a corporate table at 60,000 Kenya shillings and for individual at 8,000 Kenya shillings. Make your payments via paybill number 933-933, account name WOE. For partnership and sponsorship, call Eunice on 0719-863-336 or email customerexperience@hopefm.org. This event will be live on Hope TV, the East African Women of Excellence Awards, recognizing East African women of impact.
My best part about being a Hope FM listener was Hope Through the Night. My radio was always on at night, just worshiping and getting the sermons on the top of every hour. And it really made me a stronger worshiper. It made me a stronger worshiper. My best part about being a Hope FM staff has to be treasure hunt with the boys and girls every Saturday morning, being Auntie Rhoda. Oh, I just loved teaching the children. There's a child who wrote in her composition, she was writing about her family, and she wrote one of her aunties is Auntie Rhoda. I was so happy because I'd never met her, but they knew me as their auntie and just teaching them in the ways of the Lord. So I really thank God for every moment I spent at Hope FM, and even for now being impacted as a listener.
I don't think justice is there for everybody. Yeah, I don't think people experience the justice that they deserve. We might not want to believe it, but it's very shrewd. It works for the people it works for. It works, but for the people it doesn't. It really doesn't. And I know that there's a lot that needs to be done.
They're going to unlearn, or rather relearn new things that they have to do in life. Their mental spaces, their emotional spaces. So we take them through life skills, the normal SDG goals and what they are and what they mean.
Welcome back. You're watching Hope TV Newswatch. Now, financial advisory firm PKF has presented a comprehensive economic review of Kenya, raising significant concerns about overtaxation and its impact on the country's economic landscape. PKF has voiced strong criticisms against the government's taxation methods and strategies, arguing that Kenyans are overburdened with taxes, yet they do not receive corresponding services. Here is Mombi Wawero with more.
We don't look at the long-term picture.
Financial and business advisory firm PKF in their analysis has revealed that Kenyans are burdened by excessive taxes without receiving adequate services in return. They question the methods and approaches of the government in implementing new taxes, especially when the global growth rate is below 2%. PKF stresses the need for a more aggressive economic growth strategy, suggesting a target of 8 to 10% GDP growth to lift the nation out of poverty.
Has been very insensitively increasing taxes in the name of widening the tax bracket and all that. And I think if you listen to a majority of Kenyans, ordinary citizens, the business community, the people we really work for, and we interact with on a daily basis, people are struggling and suffocating on the many taxes that have been introduced over the last 2 years. And I think the main concern, if you talk to people candidly, they will tell you, it's not a question of not wanting to pay the taxes, but they feel overtaxed because they also don't get the services. That's the problem.
It's been a very tough year for the last couple of years. We have just come out of COVID in 2020, 21, and 22. We had Kenya's elections. And in Africa, when we have elections, everything slows down. Economic performance goes down. 23, we had a lot of financial turbulence in Kenya, exchange rates, interest rates, global inflation, which affected us as well. So businesses, new government came on board. They had their first budget presented. Last year, taxes were increased, and this is a year again of taxes. I think what we need to also understand and appreciate is what the government is trying to do. I think the only thing that we need to question is the method, right, and the approach. And that is what I think Kenyans are complaining about.
The review also highlights the overtaxation of individuals and manufacturing companies, which stifles disposable income and contributes to public discontent. PKF suggests that a booming tourism sector and a simplified process for manufacturing companies could enhance cash flow and reduce the cost of doing business in Kenya. Additionally, the analysts are recommending increasing interest rates to contain inflation and stabilizing exchange rates to maintain Kenya's strong currency performance. However, the government's short-term borrowing strategy due to high interest rates on bonds is a concern for long-term financial stability.
Last month, towards the end, the Treasury published the National Tax Policy. And our call on this is that despite the publication, we need to have the National Tax Policy implemented immediately. And by immediately, we mean we want to have the proposals or the policy guidelines that are provided in the National Tax Policy come into effect with Finance Bill 2024, as well as Finance Act 2024 once assented by Parliament or by the President into law.
PKF is now calling upon the government of Kenya to immediately implement the National Tax Policy with the Finance Bill 2024 and ensure that the proposed amendments are aligned with the National Tax Policy. PKF also urges a re-evaluation of tax policies and economic strategies to foster sustainable growth and improve the living standards of Kenyans.
So businesses, new government came on board. They had their first budget presented. Last year, taxes were increased.
Mumbi Waweru, Hope TV, Nairobi.
What we need to also understand and appreciate is what the government is trying to do. I think
Thank you so much, Mumbi, for that report. And to some sporting action now, KCB women's volleyball team successfully defended their Kenya Volleyball Federation League title after dismantling Kenya Prisons 3-0 in an entertaining tiebreaker. At the Kasarani Indoor Arena on Sunday afternoon, the Bankers made it 2 in a row after seeing off their opponents by sets of 25-22, 25-17, and 25-21 to seal their victory in front of their fans, asserting their dominance in the local volleyball scene. The three-leg final saw KCB lose 3-0 in the first encounter on Friday before bouncing back on Saturday with a resounding 3-0 win to set the date for Sunday's tie-breaker match.
Mazoezi ilikuwa poa na ilifanya ndio nikachukua MVP. Tukianza game ilikuwa ngumu, lakini kumaliza game yetu ilikuwa rahisi. Hiyo game ya kwanza tulicheza na Prison, sikuwa nimejiamini, lakini vile tulianza jana nikajiamini mimi mwenyewe nasabeba KCB, hivyo ndio imepatia ushindi.
Saizi tumemaliza hii playoffs, ingawa tumechelewa. Ilikuwa tuanze mwezi wa 5 tarehe 10, lakini sasa hii playoffs imetuchelewesha mpaka tunaanza kesho saa 8. Tukiendelea nayo mpaka wakati tunaenda Philippines kwa Challenger Cup. Tutoke kutana na Miramas for camp training ya Kenya teams, then for Olympics. So tuko na wachezaji ambao wameonyesha mchezo yao bora sana hapa, ambao tumeweza kuwaongeza kwa squad, na wakifanya vizuri bado tutawabeba kule Tokyo for Olympics.
Moving on swiftly, and the junior starlets arrived safely back home on Monday after defeating Burundi 3-0 in the first leg of the final round of the FIFA Under-17 World Cup qualifiers. They are now preparing for the second leg against Burundi, scheduled for Sunday at the Ulinzi Sports Complex.
Cha kwanza ni kuhakikisha kwamba vijana wanaendelea kutayarishwa inavyostahili. Pindi tu tukitoka hapa tungependa wapumzike, alafu warejelee matayarisho yao. Technical bench yao ninaamini wakiongozwa na coach Cheche wako na mipango ya jinsi ambavyo wataendelea na matayarisho yao. Tungependa kuwapatia support ili matayarisho hao yawe sawa sawa. Safari bado ni half time. Bado tuko na dakika 90 na hizo ni dakika 90 muhimu zaidi. Tungependa tumalize vema, so tungependa tujitayarishe ili tuweze kumaliza vema. Nataka kutoa ombi kwa Wakenya wote ya kwamba Jumapili itakuwa siku ya kihistoria. Hakuna timu yoyote ya taifa la Kenya imewahi kukaribia kucheza kwenye kombe la ulimwengu la FIFA kwa kiwango chochote. Kwa hivyo hii ni timu ambayo inakaribia zaidi kuandikisha historia. So nataka kuwaomba Wakenya tujaze Ulinzi Stadium.
Well, sports is done, so is the news tonight. And with that, we come to the end of our news tonight. Many thanks to you for making time to watch Hope TV Newswatch. We really do appreciate the value of your time. On behalf of the amazing crew that made this bulletin a success, have yourselves a blessed night. My name is Kimani, and standing for us tonight was Boniface Murithi.